Hey, this is Troy Taylor with the Championship Football Coaches Clinic, and I got Coach McFee, the legendary coach from Richmond, Virginia, here today. Coach McFee, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Just getting home from therapy.
Yeah, so I contacted Coach McFee today. He had texted me and I asked him to come on, and I thought today would be a great day to have Coach on because today is Martin Luther King Day, and every time I would call Coach, he always had Martin Luther King on his voicemail. So, Coach, could you just tell us a little bit about that? And you told me you still had that on there.
I still have it on my voicemail. If anyone called me and I don't answer, it clicks to it and it goes Dr. Martin Luther King saying at a speech. I wouldn't have been around in 1962 when Negroes in Albany, Georgia decided to straighten their backs up. And whenever men and women straighten their backs up, they're going somewhere because a man can't ride your back unless it is bent. That's it on my phone.
And then they would say, "That's his message.
That's
Now
his
leave your message."
your message. That's
Yes,
right. Yeah.
that always meant so much to me to hear that. But Coach, I was born in 1978. That's probably around the same year that your son was born, Marcus.
Yeah, he was in '78.
Yeah, so I mean, when you're a kid, you think, oh, 1968 was so long ago when Dr. Martin Luther King, got killed, but it really wasn't. Now that I'm older, so in retrospect, looking back at it, I kind of understand the world a little bit more. I mean, now because it wasn't really that far removed. So I mean, you grew up during that time, Coach, and you coached during that time, and then after how old were you when Dr. Martin Luther King passed away?
Well, I was 20, 21 years old at the time because I was in Germany. Uh, I participated in the March on Washington in 1963. I was a sophomore in high school, and we all were on a chartered bus sponsored by the NAACP. I was in Wilmington, North Carolina at the time, and we drove to D.C. and we did the March on Washington up there, and that whole scenery going to DC and everything and being in Wilmington, North Carolina, it changed my way of thinking because I never went through that here in Richmond because I lived in Churchill with my parents and everything, and I never was confronted with segregation. And if I was, I didn't know anything about it,
Yeah.
But once I went to the March on Washington and found out what's what, when I got back here to Richmond to start my sophomore year, I joined NAACP here and went from there.
So when you say you never experienced segregation, is it because you were so immersed in it in Richmond, you never really realized because that's the way things were,
I
that
think
everything was separate?
I think so. And I gave an example. My dad worked at one of the movie theaters downtown, and he would take us down there to see different movies, and we always had to sit up in the balcony. But I thought sitting up in the balcony was the joint, you know, and 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 he never explained to me about the segregation. We just sat up there. And then as I got older, then I found, oh, that's why they had us sitting up there because we want the right color. I said, well, that's life. We'll continue on.
It's just interesting how you know generations.
Call from Marcus McFee.
Go ahead. This Marcus calling.
That's all right. We'll put Marcus on there.
My wife's gonna pick it up. There, she got it now. That was
Yeah,
Marcus.
I hope Marcus is watching. I'm sure he is. But it's interesting how, I had Jordan McNair's dad on. Jordan, passed away at the University of Maryland, and he says that he wished he would have taught his son self-advocacy, whereas like the generations before you, like they never even made you aware of what was going on. It seems like it was just like, hey, this is the way it is, and we're just going to make the best of the situation.
Right.
Is that right in me saying that, or?
I think so. And back during that time, as a black man, if you stepped out of line and said something, you could get hung. I mean, you could get shot. I mean, it wasn't anything that could stop people from dealing with you. When you read so much about people with a black man was killed because he whistled at a white woman. Come on now, And back during that time, you were scared to look at a white woman because anything could happen to you, you know. But now,
I see Kevin Connor, you know, that played at Manchester and coached at Manchester and coached at Life Christian. He left a message here. He said, "Legend coach." So we all feel the same way about you. You know, I don't know how many people out there today really know. I mean, I don't even know if it's that important to you, coach, but how much you've meant to me. You know, I played football at LC Bird. And,
we won't hold that against you.
I know, and you know, our biggest rival was playing you guys.
Oh yeah, that's where I was too.
Y'all were the standard,
Yeah.
and you know, I know I told you this, but I want everybody to know this because I mean, coach, history's kind of changed. You know, people used to write books, people used to make movies, but now, you know, with YouTube, it's like we can almost document our own history. So I want everybody to know this. When I'm almost gonna cry, man. My mom and grandma worked at the Richmond Diamond, to raise money for LC Bird's football program, and you had your concession stand, and you were the enemy, coach. You know, you were the big dog, and you had a great program, but you treated my mom and my grandma so well, and they loved you so much, and you know that was for a kid that was 17 years old.
Thank you.
And it's just a testimony to how you've treated people and what you've done in your life. Tell us a little bit about your story, coach. You said you were from Churchill, you know, your early life.
Yeah, well, I was born in the West End, and everybody in my family was a Maggie Walker graduate. And by the time it was time for us to go to middle school and all of that, my parents moved to Churchill. And so I didn't get a Maggie Walker degree. My dad was in the first graduating class at Maggie Walker. And from that point on, once we moved to Churchill, I became a Wildcat, an Armstrong Wildcat. And as a matter of fact, I took history from Coach Maxie Robinson, so that was good too, you know. My whole thing with you know, like I said, with the segregation, honestly, as a young kid, I never knew anything about it because my parents never put me in a position where I could see that. They kept me away and my sister away from that, you know. So that's how I grew up.
So did you raise your son any differently? I mean, because I mean, me and your son are the same age, so we were 10 years removed from Dr. King passing away. But it seemed like a long time ago, but it really wasn't. You know, Coach was like, "Do the Right Thing" movie with Spike Lee and all that. And you know, did you do anything differently?
Well, the only thing I explained to my kids, and this is not a racial thing, this is just how I felt at the time. I always taught my kids this: seek not to know all the answers, but try to understand the questions. The white man may not always be right, but the white man is going to always be white. Now, you take it the way you want to take it. I'm telling my kids at that time, you got to sit back for a moment before you run out your mouth and say something wrong. And then you got big problems. So
yeah, so I'm just trying to think how that differs from the way your parents raised you.
Oh, it's different. The difference is, you know, my mom was a beautician, and my dad, like I said, he worked at the movie theaters, and they raised me and my sister to care about our fellow man, you know, and that's where we came up with when she told us, seek not to know all the answers, but try to understand the question. You know, that's the way I've always tried to treat people. I treat folks the way I want to be treated. And I know if I treat you bad, somewhere down the line, I'm going to get treated bad. So I try not to treat people bad.
And Coach, you know, a lot of people talk the talk, but you walk the walk, you know. Yeah, a couple of your old friends here have left messages. You got Sean O'Hare, said, good to see you, Coach McFee. And then Coach Shedrick McCall here. He said he's a role model and a real model for all young men. And yeah, I appreciate that, Coach. And just to talk about Shedrick's son, you know, Shedrick Jr., he came by and saw me, Coach, the other day. And it meant so much to me, Dr. McCall.
Oh, yeah.
That he came and saw me. He's such a great ball player, and he's a great young man. He's giving back to the community. He's going to get his master's. And, I mean, heck, he'll probably end up being Dr. McCall too. we got a message from my great friend Mark Johnson, who was the head coach at Amelia. Now he's my running back coach and special teams coordinator at Burr. He says the GOAT. He helped me a lot on things I didn't understand about football. He was truly a special person to me. So I mean, it's amazing, Coach. I mean, I was watching Coach Jason Brown, who's the coach at Last Chance U. He had about 50 people on his podcast. I mean, we got 15, Coach. And I mean, we just put this thing together. We might have to do this every week, Coach. We could get a lot of views. So, after, going to high school and everything, how did you get into coaching? How did you know that was your calling, Coach? Well, I know a little bit about your background with radio.
Yeah, well, I was going to say I started out as a substitute disc jockey at WANT Radio downtown, and I was doing the sports with Billy Johnson, and I wanted to do a high school football game, so I called Lou Anderson and asked him could I do his game, and he was getting ready to play Booker T in Norfolk. So he said, sure, you can go down with us and da-da-da-da. So I took my tape recorder and all that, because that's what you had back then. And I go down and I do the warm-up with them and everything. And I sit there in the press box and watch this game. And I'm saying to myself, I can do this. As much as I play football and everything, I can coach football. So I thank Lou and everything for taking me down there with him and his coaches and his players. And a little later that year, I said to Lou, what's the chances of me coming there as an assistant coach? And he said, fine, I just need to talk to my AD and the principal. As long as they approve it, it's fine with me. So he talked to him, and they hired me to come in as an unpaid assistant coach, because during that time, if you weren't a classroom teacher, you couldn't get paid. And they made me an assistant coach, and I became the JV coach. And in my 3 years as JV coach, we were 29-1. And people used to say that I was running up the score, but I wasn't. You couldn't stop us.
That's right, Coach.
There's a big difference in running up the score and you not stopping us. If you want to talk about me, talk about your own shortcomings before you say something about me.
Yeah, I know, Coach.
So that's the way I look at it. But so after that, Lou moved me up to the varsity. Some people moved to different jobs in the city, and I took a guy's place and became the defense coordinator at Maggie Walker. And of course, then it switched over to Marshall Walker. And in 1982, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was the year that Jesse Chavez died, and Coach Willard Bailey offered me the position as defense coordinator at Virginia Union, and I did that for like 3 or 4 years. And then I stepped away from coaching for a year, and it ended up, was at a party one night, and me, Frank Butts, Bo Jones, the late Bo Jones, all of us was at a party, and Bo was saying he was going to become the head football coach at Huguenot. And he said, would you come and work with me? I said, I tell you what, I don't want to give you any answers out here tonight, but if you get the job, let me know, and I'll talk to you about it. And sure enough, he became the head basketball coach and football coach at Huguenot. And a year later, the principal called me in just before we got off for Christmas break, and the principal said, we're going to switch over. I offered coach he could take whichever job he wanted, basketball or football. And he chose basketball, so now I'm offering you the head football job. You know it's not going to be easy to have 1 minute games. Yeah, well, that don't have nothing to do with me. So I had a meeting with the kids before they got off for Christmas and told them what to expect when they come back from Christmas. And the rest is basically history, thanks be to God.
And what year was that you became the head coach of Huguenot? It
was in December of 1987.
Man,
my first season was 88.
It didn't take you long, Coach. You got Trey Shepard, class of 2006, on Facebook, says, glad to have had you as my coach. He's the real GOAT of coaching. I totally agree, Trey. And then Woody, Rick City Johnson. The reason I started, thanks, Coach Mack. Is that Woody, whose son played at Hermitage, Coach?
I think so. Yeah.
No, I think that's Woody Winborn. That's Winborn. This is
Okay.
another Rich City.
Right.
Johnson. The reason that you started coaching there. So if you have any questions for Coach, or you want to say anything, just go into the comments of YouTube or go into the comments of Facebook and leave it, and we'll put it up there so Coach can see it and he can answer any questions. I mean, Coach, we got 20 viewers right now. I mean, we're almost at the last chance you coaches numbers. Heck, we've only been doing this for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So, Coach.
I mean, that you got a popular show.
Nah, Coach, I got a popular guest. Yeah, I'm like you, Coach. It's not your X's and O's; it's your Jims and Joes.
That's right.
You like having David Terrell and Bruce Branch.
Hey, nothing but I remember one night we were playing Highland Springs, if I'm not mistaken, and David had hurt his wrist, and I was just using him as a decoy, and we were behind 14-0. We were behind by 14 points, and David came to me on the sideline and said, "Coach, throw me the ball." I said, "David, your hand is hurt. You can't catch." He said, "Coach, throw me the ball." So when next time we got the ball, we threw 2 passes, both to David. We ended up with a touchdown, got it back. He intercepted a pass, got it back, scored another touchdown. And I learned right then, hey, man, seek not to know all the answers, but understand the question. And
Amen.
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about David Terrell, I think I was a senior when he was a sophomore, and then I came back and watched him play his senior year. I think Bird played you at Huguenot, and I mean, my point of reference, I mean, for a receiver, I've never seen Randy Moss in person.
Yeah.
I mean, David Terrell is one of the biggest receivers I've ever seen. You know, that I kind of, when I went up to UVA spring ball and I saw the young man from South Carolina, number 1, that passed away. I mean, he was a big receiver, and that's who I thought of. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about David Terrell and him going to Michigan. And, I mean, that was just an exciting time to be at Huguenot, Coach, the thrill on Forest Hill.
Yeah, well, you know, he picked Michigan. You know, he had scholarships from everywhere. And honestly, he had it all right there in his hands. It was just a matter of which school he wanted to go to. And I always thought that David was one of those kind of kids that could step out of high school and go straight to the pros. I really felt that.
Yeah, Coach.
He had that kind of talent, you know. And you know, he got drafted. I was in New York with him. He invited me to New York when he was drafted by the Bears. He was the number 8 player taken in the draft. And he was upset because they had told him he was going to be the number 3 person taken, and they made it number 8. And I said, well, $1 million is $1 million, no matter what number it is. You know?
Amen.
So he became an instant multimillionaire.
Man. Mark Johnson is asking on Facebook, can you ask Coach about the time he spent with Coach Ron Gundry? Coach Gundry was also a mentor to me, I guess, out in Amelia. Coach Gundry coached Michael Strahan, right, Coach? In high school, I believe. You talked anything about that? Coach Johnson's asking you about Coach Gundry.
Coach Gundry had come to me. He was trying to get a job here, coaching, because he was coming from Texas, if I'm not mistaken. And he was trying to get a job, and he interviewed with different people, different schools, and none of them offered him a job. So some kind of way he got my number, and he called me, and I said, well, I tell you what, I'll meet you. Let's meet tomorrow for lunch, and we'll talk about it, and we'll see where we go from there. And I met him the next day for lunch, and I said, tell me the very first thing that you're going to teach a kid about playing football. And he said, the very first thing we're going to teach him is his left from his right. I said, you got a job.
Yeah.
And he did a great job with us. I really appreciated it. And then he ended up at Sacrament. Yeah. And I know he passed not too long ago.
Yeah. I don't know if Mark, were you aware that Coach Gundry had passed away, Mark? If you want to put in the comments, I wasn't aware of that. Okay, you got Pee Wee Parham, coach. His son played for me at Meadowbrook. Coach Matt, great man. Wallace Parham here.
Well, Wallace Perrin played for me. Well, he played for us at Maggie Walker back in the day. So, and I know all his boys.
I'm telling you, Coach, that's what's so special about football. And, with DeMar Hamlin going down the other night, I know you were probably watching the game, but just all of the people, no matter if they were black or white, just praying and everybody tweeting and giving money and from all around the country, just made me proud to be an American, Coach.
Oh yeah, no question. I was when he got up and walked out of the hospital the other day, I was shocked. I didn't think it would happen that quick, but that's God.
Amen. And Mark Johnson says, yes, he was truly my great friend, Coach Gundry.
Yeah.
So when you took the job at Huguenot in 1988, what was the first thing you did? Because there's all these young coaches that want to be the head coach.
Yeah.
And there's the old saying, you want to be the head. Everybody wants to be the head coach until you're the head coach. But I'm pretty sure you were ready.
Well, I have a theory. Everybody, because you sit in the second seat, it does not mean that you can sit in the first seat. And a lot of folks misconstrue that. They think they're in the second seat, that they God's gift to football, but you ain't.
It's a humbling game, isn't it, Coach?
Yes, it is,
man.
Yes, it is.
But so what did you do when you first took over there? I know y'all had a strong rec program with the Broad Rock Bandits, and
what honestly what I did when we came back from the Christmas break, I got permission to go into the middle schools, and I went to the 3 middle schools that fed kids to Huguenot. And I asked the principals, and he let me sit down with your 7th and 8th grade boys. And they did. And I explained to the kids, if you're going to be an 8th grader next year, I want you to, I'm not telling you don't play park and rec, but I want you to play on our 9th grade team. If you're a 9th grader, you're going to play on the JV team. So now I'm going to get 90% of my kids going to play, and they did 5 years for me. Not just the little 3 or 4 you normally get in high school. They played 5 years. And then I went to the park and rec teams in that area of Huguenot and got them to put in my offense and defense. And it was like them playing for 8 years now. It was one of those things, yeah.
So, you talked about your offense and defense. I mean, if I had to think about a Coach McFee coach team, I'm thinking about that wing tee offense and that counter crisscross, which was deadly, unstoppable. And, that 7 diamond. I mean, everybody was up there, Coach. And,
we were getting ready. We was playing a team one night, and it was 4th quarter. Game was almost over, and they called timeout. So I walked out on the field, and honestly, I was walking out there to tell my quarterback, take a knee. Let's get this over with, right? And the defensive coordinator from the other team said, hey, Coach McFee, why you keep running that counter crisscross? You know we can't stop it. Why don't you run it again? I said, okay. I turned around to my quarterback. I said, 728 reverse. You got it. And then the next play, boop, touchdown. And I hollered across the field. You asked for it. I wasn't going to do that, but you asked for it. So you have to be careful what you ask for.
He said Wallace P. Parham said that you coached him at Huguenot. His dad's Pug.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, his dad's Pug. You and my dad taught me a lot.
Yeah,
carried over to life coaching on the field in the real world. Yeah, Coach Pug is a legend, man.
His dad was a good person.
Oh yeah,
no question.
He had so many great players come out of Belmead. Trey Shepard. Trey Shepard said, I ran the wishbone.
Yeah.
He's ran the wishbone for Reed Ravens for 13 years, 6 championships as head coach, thanks to Coach McFee and that wing tee inside trap. And I think sometimes youth football coaches kind of don't understand their importance to the game because, I mean, it's almost like a college coach would be nothing without high school coaches, and high school coaches aren't anything with the youth coaches. And that's where the real football is taught.
Right.
So it's always like the youth coaches want to come to high school, and then the high school coaches want to go to college, and the college coaches want to go to the NFL. So what can you say to those guys like Trey that's out there coaching youth and those kids are like sponges, and they're changing kids' lives.
Well, I gave an example. We had a kid one year at Huguenot, and he was an offensive lineman. And every time I would call a trap play, he would pull, whether it was his trap or not. And when it wasn't his trap, he would end up running into the guy who was actually doing the trapping. So I'm saying, what can I do to keep this kid from pulling? Because every time he hears trap, he pulls. And I said, here's what we're going to do. I'm talking to this kid now. I said, here's what we're going to do. If I say trap left, that means you pull. If I say trap right, that means you block down. Do you understand? Don't pull unless you hear trap left. He said, yes, sir. He ended up making all state and got a big time college scholarship.
Yeah, so you got Chris Anderson here, legend. Thank you for the opportunity. I don't know, is this the Chris Anderson that went to Byrd and University of Richmond? I'm not sure.
No.
Coach, there's so many people leaving messages, Coach.
Yeah, well, Chris Anderson right there, you saw, he's coaching at Manchester.
Okay, right on. Yeah.
And, he was a great person for us back in the day. He really was. Yeah.
He runs the offense. And
I know he runs the offense at Manchester.
Man, they are good. And here's Puka. Coach, I just want to thank you for all you've done for football in the 804 area. I appreciate our conversations and our guidance. As Coach Puka Scott, Highland Springs, Puka has ran a legendary youth program over there at Glen Lee, and then at Verona, and then went over there to Highland Springs, and they've won 5 state championships. So Puka's changed so many kids' lives and helped so many kids. How does that make you feel, Coach?
It feels great because I like Puka. He's a good person. You know? I don't care when you see him; he always has that same look about him. He's a good person, and I didn't know that he was a Verona graduate until somebody said, "Wonder why he coach at Highland Springs and don't coach at Verona?" And I said, "Verona?" They said, "Yeah, he's a Verona graduate," and I didn't know that at the time. I said,
the only reason I knew is because Zach Hayden coached at Verona there with Puka. That's the only reason I knew that. Then I remember when he left Verona and went over there to Highland Springs. Here's one of your former players here, Alec Eberly. I'm glad I ain't got to coach against him no more. Brain is the size of a BB rolling down a 4-lane interstate. Goat. You're the man, Coach Mac. Thanks for everything you did for me. Alex over there coaching with my great friend Shane Reynolds, who's son of Bobby Reynolds, Coach. That worked for Dixie and Disco, and Alex over there coaching the line and running the weight program. I mean, talk about coaching those guys at Atlee. I mean, after you got done at Huguenot.
Well, he was an intricate part of what we were doing, and Atlee had not beat anybody of any significance, and I'm not taking anything away from anybody. I'm just saying what had happened, and he was a starting center, and we had just won. I can't remember what game it was. But we had just won the game that Friday night, and the next week we had Verona. And I said something to the team about we playing Verona next week. And Alex stepped in and said, "Coach, do you mind me saying something?" He said, "Let me tell you something, guys. For everything that's been done here to help us get to where we are today," he said, "if you don't think we can beat Verona, you turn your stuff in and don't you come back, because these people are working hard for us to win." And that's showing up the next week in overtime, we beat Verona. That's the first time they had ever beaten Verona. And matter of fact, the 4 years we were at Atlee, we went to the regionals every year. So,
I remember, Coach.
Yeah,
y'all changed that program over there.
Yeah.
Puka's back on here. He wants you to talk about how explosive Deron Ferguson was. A lot of people don't know how great he was. And Deron, I think was his son play for Highland Springs?
His son plays for Highland Springs.
Yeah, I think he had a pretty explosive play against us, or maybe more than one. Is Deron older or younger than Marcus, Coach? Because I remember Deron.
He's older.
Okay, yeah, I remember watching y'all play at City Stadium.
Yeah.
So, talk a little bit about Deron. This is pretty awesome. I appreciate everybody coming on and asking questions, man. This is awesome, Coach. We're going to have to do this again, man.
Yeah, well, that's fine. With Deron Ferguson.
Yeah.
When I first met him, I'm saying, y'all said this little guy can do what? I said, he's too small for this. And they said, no, he's not, coach. Once you see him run, and we got in practice, and I went, oh my God. And you could see it. You could see it. You know, now if we were in a eye back formation or something like that, that wouldn't have fit him. But by being in the wing T and he got to move before the ball snapped and so forth and so on, that was the wing T was right down his line. And I always say the good Lord make everything happen for a reason. And that's what happened with him. I mean, Ron Ferguson was great. Now, and mind you, I had already coached Jerry German, and he was great. And Ron walked in and made it look like Jerry German was just a normal player. I mean, you know, and I love both of them dearly, but they're two of the best running backs I've ever been associated with. So.
Yeah, I remember watching him play. We got Thomas L. Williams Jr. said, "Thanks, Coach, for all the advice, words of wisdom, and lessons about life through football." Coach T.
Now his dad is a line coach. He was at Henrico and he was at Adelaide. Verona Adelaide, if I'm not mistaken. And he's always been there, learning to play football, you know, coach football. He's good people. Good people. Yeah, I heard today that when I was at therapy, I heard that Clover Hill is named Glasgow as the new head football coach. So,
you know, I always had a lot of respect for Coach Glasgow and you know the job he did at Highland Springs as an assistant, and you know at Henrico. So that's good news, you know, for football in the 804. Walter Jackson says, "I met Coach McFee at a youth coaching clinic years ago. I learned so much from Coach McFee at that time. Thank you, Coach, for all you have done for the game of football." I mean, I remember you were very associated with the National Football Foundation and the NFL camps and bringing those, you know, to Richmond.
Yeah. Well, you know, I spoke to a youth group earlier this year, and I spoke on don't ever be afraid to fail. You can't ever go in anything and worried about failing. You don't have to fail. Just do what you've been taught to do, you know? So those kids, they look, I mean, it might have been 20, 30 kids out there at that camp, but they all were out there in that hot sun that day, because I was hot. And I just think that's what brings the best out of people. But they got to hit, to me, it's got to be something positive. You can't just keep throwing negative stuff at kids, you know? So.
Yeah, and Coach Parham, his son was Trey. Trey played wingback for me, and I didn't even recognize Trey when he came to practice one day. I thought he was somebody's dad. He'd grown about a foot since high school. And, give them kids the basics, still close to perfect.
That's
give them kids the basics. And I mean, that's really everybody wants to be so fancy.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
you don't have to be.
You got to hang your hat on something. And, you know, as a coach, you hung your hat on a few things. And one of them was the wing tee and the 7 diamond, loading the box up and having better athletes and better. I mean, Coach, your scouting reports. I mean, talk a little bit about that, the scouting reports you would prepare and then even help other coaches out with teams.
Well, the way we did the scouting reports, I had a friend of mine named Billy Randolph, who was a Maggie Walker graduate, and he would go out on Friday nights and scout. And my JV coaches would also go out on Friday night and scout the week.
This is before Huddle. This is before Huddle, the internet.
This is before
VHS.
Before any of that, you know. And they would bring the stuff to me on Saturdays. I would put it all together, go down to the one of the places and run it off. So when we met every Sunday, at 9:00 at my house in the den, and we go over the scouting report and the game plan for the next opponent. And I'll say this, for the 20 years as a head football coach, every Sunday during football season, every Sunday morning, my wife fixed breakfast for me and my staff every Sunday. And they would always give her a big gift and stuff at the end of football season. So, you know, one hand washes the other. And that's what it is. But with the scouting reports, I think a lot of kids that we coached felt like the scouting report is what got them through. And then we would, before huddle and all this stuff, then we would even cut up film to give to them to take home to watch those who could do that. And then once huddle and all that came along, that made it even twice as easy, you know. But I just feel like sometimes you can talk to a kid or a person, period, and they say, but they don't hear what you're saying. But once you give them something to read, and they read it and see it every day, they can pick it up and read it, and it start making sense to them. So consequently, you end up looking like a genius as a coach, and it ain't you, it's them. You know.
Yeah, that's that preparation you put in, that work, that coach, that time. Rich City Wood Johnson says, I remember the scouting reports, and Coach Mack used to print them out, and you better have it to turn it in on Thursday.
That's right.
Greatly appreciate that. So you made them turn them back in just to prove they still had it, right, Coach? They didn't leave it at their girlfriend's house or on the kitchen sink or in the class of 03. Linwood Johnson.
Oh man, yeah. If I'm not mistaken, he had just become the JV head coach at
Huguenot.
At Huguenot.
Yeah, his son played for the Verona
Yeah.
JV team, and I was like, "Who in the world is that?" I hate to see Verona's varsity quarterback if that's the JV quarterback. So he played for you in 03. So
yeah,
man, Coach. So like,
that tells you I'm getting old, huh?
Nah, Coach, you.
I just turned 75.
75
last week.
Oh, you still young, Coach.
January the 12th. Like
you were a trailblazer. Like there's so many coaches today. You know, they have Twitter and they have the internet. And Coach Puka's left a message. I was going to talk about that. Puka says, Coach Mack, thank you for the blueprint on getting 804 area players exposure and scholarships to Power 5 schools. You set the tone and put our area on the map. And that's crazy that you sent that, Puka, because I was going to talk about how he's a trailblazer, you know, with getting the college coaches to come to the schools and, you know, getting kids offers. And, you know, there were so many kids that he helped that didn't even play for him. And he would tell a college coach about. And then when it comes to, you know, the first team with Nike uniforms, the 7-on-7s, the camps, going to Hoover to play 7-on-7 against Rush Probst. We should get Rush Probst on here, Coach.
Yeah.
That we'd get some views on that one, wouldn't we?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, Coach, you know, Puka said it best right there, Coach. I mean, you were the first. You were the first, and, you know, I mean, I guess it was because you have a background in, you know, media and I guess promotion. But you were promoting your program, you were promoting your brand, you were promoting your kids, and you were doing what was best for your kids. So just talk a little bit about that, Coach, the blueprint that you had.
Well, here's one of the things that I always looked at, Coach, and I did this once I became the head coach at Huguenot, is when June, July, and August come, first part of August, June, July, and the first part of August. If I don't take these kids out of Richmond, most of them don't have a summer vacation. So if I load them up and put them on the bus and take them to Penn State, I load them up and put them on the bus, took them to Michigan, I load them up and put them on the bus, took them to Florida State. But my whole thing, and to Hoover, Alabama, but my whole thing was, it's great to do that because how many of these, say 60 kids on the bus, how many of them wouldn't be going anywhere this summer? So let's get them out of town so they can see how the rest of the world lives and what else they can shoot for to get to that point. And that was my whole thing about taking the kids out of town. Most of these kids had never even heard of Hoover, Alabama until we went down there to play them. You know, it was like that. I mean, I remember Nike flew me from Michigan. I was at Michigan doing a football camp, and they flew me from Michigan to Disney World so I could meet with those people down there so we could come back and play a football game in Florida. So I had to drop one of our teams up here, who was glad that I dropped them, so we could go to Florida to play. But now we got 60 kids and coaches going to Florida for almost a week. How many of them would ever step foot in Florida?
You changed their whole paradigm. You changed their whole view of the world. You know, they might have only known Southside Richmond.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Other than Midlothian Turnpike or anything of that nature, or North 29th Street in Churchill. So if these kids ain't on this bus with us, when would they ever get an opportunity to do that? So now, once they've done that, right? I never said anything about you can't bring weed, you can't do this, you can't do that, because they know if they did that with me, they were done.
Now, that was respect, Coach.
Yeah.
They would never disrespect you.
So my whole thing is, I want to take these kids out of what they see every day. And not that they see not that it's bad every day, but they got to know there's also another way of life. And you can't do it sitting in Richmond.
Amen, Coach.
You got to go other places and see how other people live and talk to Jimmy and Joe from North Carolina or Jimmy and Joe from Alabama. Now you understand. You can say, oh, I can do that. Oh, I can do this. So now you become a better person. And now you're going to transfer that over to somebody that you know, so that keeps that ball rolling and keeps everybody getting better and better. That's how I look at it.
Amen. Trey Shepard says, I'm doing high school football in North Carolina now since I was 15. I watch him run these offenses for years. I got it down pat with Omar Kizzy. Omar's a great coach. He was at TJ. He was an athlete with y'all, and then he went to TJ as an assistant. Then he went to Godwin, and I saw PJ is going into admin. So, you know, I have a lot of respect for Omar, and he was a great quarterback for you, Coach. Talk a little bit about Omar.
Well, Omar is like a son. You know, Marcus McFee is my son, and Omar could very easily put McFee at the end of his name and be my son. I loved him and still love him that much. You know, we did his wedding and everything. Omar's the kind of person. We were playing James River. Omar was a freshman, and we had another kid quarterbacking. And matter of fact, kid transferred from Bird that was quarterbacking for us. And
Brown.
And my offensive coordinator said to me, hey, Coach, we're behind 14-0. This is the first quarter. If we don't put Omar in this game, we're going to get killed because this kid just can't do this today. I said, no problem. I said, but look, let's make it easy for Omar. You know, I said, because they coming. So I said, Omar, here's what we're going to do. The first play when you go in, let's run a 700 waggle right. If it ain't there, run, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
He said, yes, sir, Coach. He dropped back. He got the ball. He dropped back and did all his fakes and came out of the bootleg, and everybody was covered. He took off and went 80 yards for a touchdown. And the rest, total history. And then he went to Winston-Salem State, played in an all-star game here in the state of Virginia. I mean, if you wanted a son, not that none of the rest of them can do this, but if you wanted a son that you wanted him to imitate, it would be Omar.
Wow.
That's what kind of kid he is.
This is Kevin K-Dub Williams. He played with me at Clinch Valley College, Coach, and I believe he went to JFK. He was a defensive back, and his son played for me at Bird. He says, I appreciate what Coach McFee did for Richmond City Public Schools. And there's a Linwood says that was my senior year. Omar came on fire.
Yeah.
So, you know, I have a son, Jackson. He's in 6th grade. And, you know, you have one son, Marcus. How is that for Marcus growing up knowing that his dad pretty much is like the dad to 100 other kids? You know, how did he grow up and how did he take that?
Well, he took it very well because there's a guy named, he's late now, Dave Amsler. And Dave Amsler was the soccer coach in charge of the Richmond Strikers. And then he took over and became FC Richmond Soccer. And Dave Amsler coached both of my kids, my daughter and my son. And so Marcus knew how to react to all of this because he had been around me all his life. So, and all he knows about me is coaching. When he got to Dave Amsler, I think whatever it was I didn't teach, Dave Amsler taught it, and Dave Amsler was like a father to him. And
And you never forced Marcus to play football. He
no, he was like soccer.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Talk a little bit about that, because my son, he's never played full pad football. He's played flag football, but talk a little bit about that and why you didn't force it on your son and Marcus's experience.
Yeah, well, I felt like, he grew up with soccer, and I felt like that if he sees football every day in this house, so if he decides he wants to play football, then he got to come to me, because I'm not going to ask him. I wanted to be something that he wanted to do, and that's how we did it. And
this is a good one right here, Coach. We got another GOAT right here, man. Lauren Johnson, the definite trailblazer. Quick question: what was your most memorable game or moment during your career? Thank you, Coach Johnson. We need to get you on here too, man. But I mean, golly, that's a great question.
Coach Johnson, let me say this, and I've had a lot of memory games, but let me say this: the game that I really, Huguenot had never, in the history, Huguenot had never beaten Highland Springs, and when I took over, a couple of years after I took over, we had Highland Springs on the schedule, and I remember Al Rinaldi came up to me doing the warm-ups, because he was doing the radio thing. He came up to me at the radio and he said, Coach McFee, Huguenot has never beaten Highland Springs. I said, yes, sir. He said, and they got a very good team over there today, so watch yourself. I said, Coach, today ain't got nothing to do with what happened in the past. I promise you that. And we ended up winning the game. But I liked Al Rinaldi because he was factual. He was factual. And
he's a wing T guy too, Coach.
Oh, yeah, no question. That's what I liked about him, And then when I met Lauren, it's the same thing. I think he is great for what he did in Northern Virginia, and now what he's done at Highland Springs. If I was somebody looking for a college coach, head coach, I would, or offensive coordinator or defense coordinator, Lauren Johnson would be the person that I would call.
Yeah, I don't know why he's not coaching at Virginia Tech.
Well, somewhere.
I'm telling you.
But ain't his son going to Tech?
Yeah, man, he's got another son. He'll only be a junior.
He'll be a junior, yeah.
So I know there was always rumors about you, Coach, going to college and coaching, because you had such a great network. Yeah. How did you build that network for all the coaches that are watching? And how did you maintain those relationships? And have you ever been offered a college job? So that's a lot of questions there, Coach.
Well, Coach, I was going to accept the coaching job at Penn State, and Coach Petrino called me in. I was doing summer camp there, and Coach Petrino turned me in and said, Mac, he said, Coach Mac, as much as I respect you and as much as I want you on your staff, he said, I would be doing the city of Richmond a disservice if I took you out of Huguenot. And after that, I kind of said, I'm going to stick with the high school. I'm not worried about college coaching. And I agreed with him. And when I agreed with him, I agreed that not that somebody couldn't come in and take my place and keep it going, but it's already there. So why start over? So I stayed. And
what year was that in, Coach?
Trying to think.
I mean, because Coach, if you would have accepted that, there wouldn't have been any difference between you and Coach Larry Johnson.
Right.
He was a high school coach, and
Larry was still there. Larry was already there then.
I mean, you would have been the best recruiter. It's kind of like that story about Kurt Newsom when he went to JMU, and the coach asked Mike Smith, I don't know if he can recruit. He's a high school coach, and Mike, the joke that Coach Smith says is, have you looked at his roster? He's got all the best players from kicking things. He's got all the best players from everywhere. Recruit, you would have been the best, Coach, if you aren't already the best. But Lauren, if you got any more questions, man, shoot them, man. That was awesome. So beating Highland Springs for the first time, that is the most memorable.
It was for me because I mean, you know, Huguenot didn't win a whole bunch of games, period, but they did beat other people. You know, but they had never beaten Highland Springs in the history of the school. And until Alvin Norley said that, I didn't know that until he told me.
Yeah, and you weren't worried about it. You know, you were worried about that day.
That's all I was worried about. You know, that day. So what they did in the past is not. I don't care. You know, but it's you take a guy like Lauren, and you got some other coaches around here in this area that could go to the next level. You know, and I watched Lauren one night. We were sitting there doing the all regional team, and I was watching him on the computer and listening to what he was saying, and it almost made me feel like I'm looking at myself.
Wow.
Back in the day, you know, he's a hell of a coach and a great person.
Oh yeah. Okay, we got Rod Allen. Oh, here we go. This is gonna be a tough one right here, man. Who was your best player, Coach Mack? I think I have mine, and I think I might have told you who mine is for you. But who is yours, Coach? Because I'm not going to say mine. I think I know who I believe is the best player ever to play for you. But go ahead, Coach. You can answer that.
The best player that ever played for me, Marcus McFee.
Wow.
Huh?
Are you biased on that one? Because I was thinking of somebody else, Coach.
No, who are you thinking of?
The one that a lot of people forget about. The one that went to Penn State and played for the Redskins. Bruce Branch.
Bruce. Oh.
I mean, he was coach. I mean, he was like built like Percy Harvin, 6 foot, 200 pounds. And
Coach, let me give you a story. When Bruce got hurt, this was David's freshman year, I think it was, or whatever. But Bruce got hurt. Bruce got hurt. As a matter of fact, he got hurt in the Highland Springs game.
Yeah, Rod Allen said Ferg. He thought you were going to say, Deron Ferguson, but then Rod Allen said Bruce was a dog. So I mean, he was Broad Rock Bandits, and yeah. So talk a little bit about Bruce, Coach. People forget about Bruce.
Well, when Bruce got hurt, we put David in to take Bruce's place. So when Bruce got well, one of the coaches said to me in the Sunday meeting at my house, he said, "Coach, David be back Monday. What are we gonna bench him or what we doing? Bruce be back Monday. Are we gonna bench David or what we doing?" I said, "No. When you get your team, you bench David, but he's gonna play for us. So somebody else gonna sit down because David got to play."
Yeah, K Dub said Brian Still was a good one. I forgot about Brian too, Coach. You answered me. How many NFL guys, Coach?
But Coach, I mean, how many kids we sent to the NFL? I think it's like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And that's how many made it. More than that went to trials, but 7 or 8 made it.
Renard Cox, played corner in the NFL for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
He's gonna coach. He's gonna coach
at Huguenot now.
He's secondary.
Yes, Chris Sims is a Bird guy. So many great Bird and Huguenot games while Coach Mack was there. Now, I can think back to, I think it was maybe my first year coach in 2000. Bird played at Huguenot, and they had Jason Snellings.
Oh, yeah.
Man, he was like running through the hole in power. He's like a locomotive, man. And talk a little bit about that rivalry and, because you coached against Coach Schrotenboer, then you coached against Coach Paquette, and then Coach Bedwell. So just talk a little bit about that Huguenot and Bird rivalry and what all that meant.
Well, my thing with Bird was the fact that, to me, when I took over as Huguenot, Bird was the king of the court. Everybody says Bird. Nobody want to play Bird because Bird gonna beat you and Bird gonna this. But that's kind of like who you want to play. So you can measure what you got. Yeah, you measure what you got against a LC Bird. And Ron Paquette, they all good folks, The people say, well, they don't like y'all. Well, that's fine, but that don't have anything to do with the price of tea. It's football.
So you can separate the personal relationship with the competition. Some people can't.
Yeah, I can, because once the game is over, it's over. You know, life goes on.
You know,
Look at Dutch. You know,
mm-hmm.
and Dutch's daughter ended up marrying a friend of mine and Tim Lowry. You see what I'm saying? So it all goes in the same circle. It just keeps going, and then you belittle yourself when you take it further than that. You know.
Yeah. So Rod Allen says Rotel Jenkins was nice too. I don't remember Rotel, Coach.
Coach, let me tell you something. You know what? And I could sit here and somebody can keep throwing names up there, and every name you throw up there is as good as the name you just got rid of.
It kind of reminds me of when I think it was Jordan was asked. He said, I don't know who was asked something, and he was like, he said Kevin Durant instead of picking between, like LeBron and Kobe. So it's like you named Marcus, I think maybe because you didn't want to hurt anybody else's feelings, right, Coach?
Right.
Yeah. So Lauren's back on here, Coach. We might as well just add him to the call, man. If you want to get added to the call, Lauren, I'll send you a link, man. You can jump on here with us. He said, I love it. Quiet confidence. The past has nothing to do with now. Thank you for that comment. How did your wife handle you coaching your son? And yeah, that's a great question.
Well, let me tell you this. And if Marcus was here, he would probably dispute this. But one day in practice, he had messed up or whatever. I can't even remember the whole story now, but he had messed up. And I started fussing at him. And he said, I don't have to take this. I said, you certainly don't. Go upstairs, take off my stuff.
Hey, Coach, I'm gonna go get my phone. Hold on. I'm gonna send Lauren a link if he wants to get on here.
That's fine.
Keep talking, Coach.
I said, so go upstairs, take off my stuff, and call your mom and tell her to come get you. So he said, fine. So he goes up and calls my wife, and when I get home from practice that day, we sitting there talking now, and I'm saying, so he's saying, I don't want to play no more football. Da, 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 da. And we finally got it all straightened out. And while all this was going on, one of the coaches said to me, Coach, and I know Marcus is your son, and you don't send him home, but remember this, Coach. Marcus is our fullback, our punter, our kicker, and he also plays linebacker and defensive line. So who we gonna put in his place? And I went, I'll talk to him when I get home. And so when I got home, like I said, we had the family conversation, and he came on back out, and that's just the way it is. Now see Dietrich Epps, man, placed up on the thing.
Yeah.
And Coach Dietrich Epps, to show you now, I take 9 or 10 kids with me to Miami, right?
Mm-hmm.
We in Miami for 4 days at camp. Dietrich Epps said, I always wanted to go to Miami. He got in there and got into camp, and bingo, Miami offered him on the spot. So that's why you got to take him places.
Yeah, he looked the part, Coach.
Oh, he was the part.
Yeah, he was the part. Yeah. Lauren said that's a big compliment. We said that, Coach, we got Lauren on here, Coach. This is awesome.
Hey, what's up, Coach?
Coach McFee, how you doing, man? Troy done lured me into this thing.
Yeah, man. I'm telling you, man. I love the podcast. If nobody's watched it, like, y'all need to go watch Troy Mann's and watch Lauren Johnson's podcast that they did on, is it Victory for Life? Like, Coach, that Mike Smith podcast on Kirk and Bird, and then Lauren Johnson and Troy Mann's, our basketball coach, both of them played at Virginia Tech. Yeah. And it's just like, that's like coaching lessons, like, Well,
I've only had one kid in my program to go to Virginia Tech, and that was Brian Steele.
Wow.
And I remember the day of the draft, Brian didn't go to New York. He stayed here. And after the first round was over, he didn't get drafted. But the very first player taken in the second round was the San Diego Chargers pick, and they took Brian. And he, I don't care. Right. Look, man, you got $5 in your pocket. Now you're getting ready to have $5 million in your pocket. So he Brian was always the guy who was too small. And when I say too small, he was always nice height, but He weighed 140 pounds, 150 pounds. And then people used to say, how can you play him? Because he runs 4'3". That's how I can play him. And he ended up, and this is what Brian said. He said, Coach, the very first school, Division I school, that offers me, that's where I'm going to school. Lo and behold, who comes in and offers him? Virginia Tech. And he took it right there. And
you played with him, didn't you, Lauren?
Yeah, I think that's a great segue, man. You know, you're talking about all of the guys that Coach McFee has coached, and a lot of guys I've heard about coaching Duran's son. But I played with Brian. And let me tell you this, when I first got to Virginia Tech as a freshman, Brian still was a senior, and he didn't do a whole lot of talking. He just did a whole lot of playing.
Yeah.
And when I mean a whole lot of playing, Coach McFee, whatever he was taught at Huguenot, that translated over to him playing at Virginia Tech. I mean, he was very open and forward about helping young guys get prepared.
Right.
And he helped me get prepared for my freshman year in college. That's the only way you can play when you got some guys. You know, Hank Coleman was on that team. Hank was from George Wythe High School. And then Brian Steele. You know, me being from South Florida, not knowing anything about Virginia football, those are two guys, especially Brian, because I had to cover him, or I had to try to cover him on a regular basis. You know, he pull you to the side and talk to you, tell you how to get things done the right way and how to maneuver through school the right way. But definitely on the football field, just teaching you the ins and outs, understanding why receivers with stem routes, understanding what a receiver would think at the top of a route. Just a phenomenal football player, man. I had an opportunity to play against in practice and then play with when we were on the same team, you know?
Yeah. Coach, when Brian Steele was a freshman, we were getting ready to play Petersburg. And watching Petersburg on film, they love to play cover 2. And I said, hey, man, this is a Sunday meeting at my house. And I said to the coaches, we got a special play we're going to put in for this week for Petersburg for Brian Steele. And they said, for Brian Steele? I said, yeah. I said, now here's what we're going to do. We're going double tight, double wing. I want the 2 tight ends to run post corners. Now them 2 safeties, they gone. Brian, I want Brian to be on the wing on the right side because the quarterback was right-handed. Brian, on the snap of the ball, step with your inside foot. 1001, 1002, 1003. Read that middle linebacker. If he out of there, it's your ball right there in the middle of the field. We threw that play 4 times against Petersburg. Brian scored 4 touchdowns. He was a freshman. He was a freshman. I knew right then this kid making it. He going to NFL. So,
Coach, let me ask you a question, and I think just learning a lot from you and paying attention to what's going on and outside conversations that we've had. What was your learning curve? Like, what did you use to learn? You know, we have coach clinics and stuff like that now. Some guys don't do it. You know, guys won't pay attention to it. They're afraid to ask other coaches questions. I've never been afraid to ask you a question. You can tell everybody that. What was your learning curve? I know you coach with a lot of great coaches. And other than your Sunday meetings, what did you do in the off season to prepare for your regular season?
With the clinics. And this is what I took all my staff to clinics with me. But here's what I did, Coach. You, Lon Johnson, you are my offensive line coach. When we go to the clinic, I want you to sit in on the defensive line meetings. Don't go to an offensive meeting. Go to the defensive line meeting. Because how can you beat them if you don't know what the hell they're doing? So if you're a wide receiver coach, I want you in the DBs meeting so you can learn how they're going to try to cover your DBs. To cover your wide receivers. I made every coach go to the defensive part or the offensive part against what they got to do. So if you're learning that, that's going to make you a better coach. And I've always preached it when I took over in 88. And from 88 to 2007, every year, that's how we did camps. Clinics, you go and sit in on the opposite of what you're doing. To me, it makes you better. I remember, you talk about how you treat people. I remember my son, when he finished his 4 years at Penn State, he wanted to finish his redshirt year at James Madison because he loved Mickey was the coach at James Madison. So he went to James Madison to finish his year. I'm at football camp at Penn State, and Coach Paterno called me in the office, and he said, Mac, let me ask you something. Has Marcus got his degree yet? I said, no, not yet, Coach. I said, he's still like 6-7 hours away from getting his degree. He said, all right, I got $25,000 right here. I'm putting it in his name. Can you get him on the phone so we can get it straight? I called Marcus. Marcus talked to Coach. Coach got him hooked up. Immediately, he graduated from Penn State. Now, my whole thing is this. The Grand Master did that to thank me for what I've done for other folks' kids. Because in the old days, if he didn't get his degree, go ahead and get you a job dumping trash or something. But Coach Paterno saw it. He knew Marcus is a big-time lawyer thing up in New York now. My son is. And he's an IT person at this big law firm. And that's, I've always said this to other people. The good Lord give you the answers to the question way before you ever get the question. But once the question comes, then you got to go back and say, oh, yeah. And that's the way I felt about Coach Paterno. He did that because the Lord was trying to pay me back for what I had tried to do to help your kid, my kid, next door neighbor's kid. And that's the way you are, Coach. I feel the same way about you. You are doing a lot of things. Somebody came to me not too long ago and said, they're trying to give Lauren Johnson the credit for having the college coaches come into his school and all that, but you did all that back in the 80s at Huguenot. I said, it doesn't matter when or how it's being done. He's doing it, and that's what matters, that it's being done. So, and I said to you, congratulations, and continue to do what you're doing.
Thank you, Coach.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you.
Willie May, who played at Bird, Coach, he said, McFee got me into Lackawanna, and I'm a Bird boy. He's a Bird guy. Huge. Willie's huge.
Yeah.
I mean,
I got him in there because the Lackawanna folks weren't looking at him. I told the coach of Lackawanna, I said, Coach, I know this kid, man. This kid can play.
Yeah.
He said, I'm going to take him on your word.
And that's really like, I think, underestimated by players, how valuable another coach's opinion is of you, because they go to Lauren and they say, hey man, what do you think about that kid at this place? Or they come and say, hey, Coach McFee, what do you think about this kid? Who's got a player? And it's the coaches that's around the area that they listen to, and people and guys like y'all that's been in it so long. Lauren, you got anything that you want to say about that? Like, I mean, how many times have you been asked?
Well, let me say this, Troy, and I'm gonna step to the side and let Coach McFee do the show. But we get asked all the time, and I think, I'm not from Richmond.
Right.
Okay, so when I say this, please nobody take it the wrong way. But I think people in Richmond get territorial, meaning they don't want to talk about anybody else's kid but their kid.
That's right.
And then I hear college coaches say all the time, well, kids in Richmond don't like to leave the area, so we're not going to recruit the kids from Richmond. That's why we don't get a lot of outside people to come in and recruit our kids. Mm-hmm. Whereas a place like Charlotte or South Florida is transit. You get people moving in, so they have family all over the place. I think we got to continue to work together in that regard if we really want, kids in the Richmond area to have an opportunity to go to school and play on a high level and represent the 804,
right.
In the surrounding areas. If we don't, then we selling ourselves short. Again, we try our best to make sure that everybody in the city of Richmond has an opportunity. Right. And again, I'm coming on the coattails of you, Coach McFee, and I know you with Lou Anderson, and I'm talking to some other guys about doing some stuff. But the end of it all is simply this: you working for kids and trying to get them in school to continue their education. That's they just want to play football. We want them to get degrees, right? And then when they get degrees, they can make the environment better for everybody, the whole Richmond area. Like I said, the kids are thinking about football. We as adults got to get caught up in them continue their education while they playing football. And if we do all of those things, man, the Richmond area will be a better place. It'll be a lot better place for us to live, play football, enjoy ourselves, and move forward.
But I totally agree with you, because I remember a college coach saying to me, it seems like the Richmond kids don't want to leave Richmond. Well,
that's why, Coach. Yeah.
Let me ask y'all, because both of y'all put guys in the NFL since the Washington Redskins came to Richmond. And I've always wondered this. Do you think that the Washington Redskins coming and bringing their summer camp to Richmond, how many kids do you think were affected by that or saw those pro football players and that helped propel them and say, hey, man, that's what I want to be, or I can do this? Lauren, has anyone ever asked you about that? Coach McFee, is anybody?
No, nobody's ever asked me, but I'm going to say this, and I don't know what Coach McFee, if you saw it growing up, but again, being in South Florida, the Dolphin Stadium, Hard Rock Stadium, or now whatever it's called, I can see it from my high school football field. So every time I went to practice, I always said I want to play in that stadium. I want to watch games in the stadium. The first game I ever saw in that stadium was the Cincinnati Bengals versus the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl. Taylor caught the long pass, Jerry Rice caught some passes. That's the first game I ever saw in that stadium. And for me, it made me feel like I could play on that level. Yeah. Even though I never did, but it made me feel like that. It made me work. It made me push myself. It gave me a vision, gave me a dream. So, Troy, I truly believe, the Redskins being here or being within the vicinity or being in the area just through those summer weeks was huge for a little kid that can see themselves or envision themselves playing on Sunday afternoons. It's something that I think the city of Richmond misses with professional football in the area.
Yeah. Well, the owner of the Redskins went to Sean Barber. But Sean Barber was playing for the Redskins at the time. Sean Barber is a Hermitage graduate. And the Redskins owner said, I'm going to redo 5 high school stadiums, 4 in D.C., and I'm going to do yours at your high school, Hermitage. And Sean Barber said, no, coach, don't do mine. I want you to do Huguenot High School in Richmond under Coach McFee, because you don't know this man when what he's done for kids in that area. His stadium needs to be redone. I get a call from the owner of the Redskins. They fly me to D.C. to speak at a group thing. Flew back to Richmond. They met with the press at Huguenot, and they built us a new stadium. So you got to, people.
That's those blessings.
Yes. There's all blessings. Yeah.
Coming back to you, Coach. Lauren, I know you said you had to go, but is there anything else you want to say before you got to go to Coach McFee, or any questions?
No, I don't have to go to. I'm going to continue to listen.
Oh, yeah. Stay on, man. Stay on, though.
It's Coach McFee's show, and I think we got to stay focused on him because, a lot of things that he's saying as I'm listening to the show, these are things that I do now. Yeah. And 2 years ago, I guess in 21, after the season was over, I had to go spend time with my high school coach. Want to spend time with my dad, just kind of get away and just kind of recharge, refocus, get re-energized. And I learned a lot about my coaching philosophy from my high school football coach. He was a Wiki guy, a lot of buck sweet. You know what I mean? Coach McFee, the same thing, waggle play, all of those different things. And I had the opportunity to play quarterback for him, but I had to go back and to figure out why I did some of the things that I did. And Coach McFee, the quiet confidence, like you said with Coach Rinaldi on the field, what happened in the past ain't happened in the day. Sometimes you got to run your mouth, just play in between the white lines. Yeah. These things that you are saying remind me of my high school football coach, remind me why I got into coaching, helping kids, giving them an opportunity. So the focus needs to be on Coach McFee. The focus don't need to be on Lauren at all, because I'm learning as I listen to you, Coach, and I'm going to continue to learn and continue to be a part, of this whole thing in Richmond to kind of help it grow and continue your legacy on as much as we possibly can.
Well, I say this, you're doing a great job, and I hope you continue to do what you're doing, because, you got to step out, and people got to understand why you're doing what you're doing, and it's always a negative group. They want you to do something wrong or what they feel is wrong so they can come back at you, because there's no other way they can get you. So you just keep doing what you're doing, because the good Lord knows what you're doing.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Troy. Y'all continue talking, man. I'm going to continue listening.
I appreciate you, Lauren.
All right, now.
You made a great point, Coach. to Lauren, and I was teaching, my history class about Martin Luther King, and I didn't know some of this stuff, but like 2 years was it 2 years after he died, 66% of Americans did not approve of Martin Luther King, and it just wasn't. He just didn't have haters that were fighting against the civil rights movement. He had haters that were on his side.
Yeah.
Didn't like him because they thought, oh, why was this guy picked, or the Southern Coalition, why did they pick him? And there was other groups that were envious of him. So it just wasn't people that were against the civil rights movement that did not like him. It was people that was on his side, because I guess, like Coach, when you're great, you're going to have haters. So I mean, have you ever heard that, or how does that make you feel? And thinking about this on Martin Luther King Day.
Well, because it's always people trying to make the good look bad. So no matter what Dr. King was doing, they're trying to make him look bad. But in my surroundings, being around the NAACP as a teenager, I didn't see anything bad. I had we were doing the picket signs in front of a store in Wilmington, and I had a gentleman walk up to me, and he said, with my name on the back of my jacket, he said, "Hey, Butch, let me ask you a question. How much they paying y'all to do this?" I said, "They're not paying me anything. I'm doing it because this is what is right." And he said, "But you come out here in this hot sun, and they're not paying you to do it?" I said, "No, they're not paying me to do it. I'm doing it because why can't we eat in the same restaurant you eat in?" And he ain't said nothing else, and he just walked away. But Dr. King, what I know of him and being around him in that whole thing when I was growing up, the man was great. He was put here for a reason. And I mean, look where we are now in 2023. Do you think 30 years ago, 40 years ago, that this would ever be taking place? No. But now it is. So what we got to make our kids and everybody understand, now you got to grow from this and help things grow and get better. You can't just be satisfied with where you are. And that's what happens to a lot of people. They're satisfied. I'm making 25 cents an hour. Well, the other guy making $1.25, but I'm satisfied with what I'm doing. Nah. And that's the way they were trying to disrespect Dr. King. And I have on Dr. King shirt now. I don't know if y'all can
stand up, Coach. Stand up so we can see it. Yeah, his dream inspired the world. Never stop dreaming.
See? And that's the way it is. And on the back it says, "I have a dream." See? So,
and even just thinking about Dr. King saying that he had a dream. I mean, as a coach, we have dreams, but actually our job is to help others fulfill their dreams.
Their dreams, right?
And I know, Coach, how you feel about that, because I know you. But that almost gives you, more sense of purpose, and talk about that, helping others fulfill their dreams.
Well, and the good thing about it is that if a kid has no way out, that there's no dreams, and it really all starts with education, because I don't care how much you want it, if you don't have education, that's going to hurt you also. And like, look in your situation, you've gone from a Chesterfield County high school athlete to one of the top coaches in Chesterfield County in the state of Virginia. So, but you had to have dreams, and then you had to go do something about the dream, and that's all you've done. That's all Lauren has done, or anybody who succeeded has done. You got to take that step forward. You can't sit back and say, nah, it's not like that. And my whole thing is, a lot of people of my persuasion the first thing when things go wrong, the first thing they want to do is blame it on somebody else. What about looking in the mirror and blame it on him?
So, you know, having self accountability and being able to overcome adversity, because I mean, Tom Brady. I mean, you probably knew Tom Brady before anybody, Coach.
I did when he was playing with Michigan.
Yeah, talk about that. I mean, he didn't even start his senior year. They had Drew Henson as the starter, and then they'd get behind and throw Tom Brady in there. I mean, that's a perfect example. I tell the kids all the time. Tom Brady didn't start as a freshman in high school on a freshman team that didn't win a game. He didn't start his senior year at Michigan. So, I mean, you remember Tom Brady before he was Tom Brady.
That's right.
Talk about that, Coach.
Yeah, well, because I always
adversity.
Because when David first when he left the Bears, Tom Brady got them to bring David to New England. And I mean, he went up there, but he eventually left. But I used to go to Michigan's campus, and like you just said, he would just be standing over there somewhere. He won't be quarterback. But look what happened. Look at him now. They're saying he's the GOAT.
And I mean, that's crazy. Tom Brady didn't start as a freshman in high school, and now, kids want to get offered as a freshman. And I think I'm seeing coaches, on Twitter, social media, beefing and stuff. I mean, coaching is a fraternity.
Yeah.
And I think you proved that, Coach. You can separate the competitiveness away from the big picture. If you win, and we're going to win and lose games as coaches.
Yeah.
But in the long run, like Coach Mike Smith told me, he said, if you're in it for the kids, then I'm for you. So that was something. Talk a little bit about Coach Smith, Coach.
Well, that's the reason how I got I feel like I got my big break in the Virginia High School League, because Mike Smith saw what we were trying to do to help these kids in Richmond. And
he was doing it in 757, right?
They're doing it at Hampton. And he's always done it down there, And Mike Smith is one of these kind of people. I'm going to bring you in, but I'm going to give you a minimum amount to do, because I don't know you yet, right? And that's basically, he didn't say those words to me, but that's what he did when he brought me in. And lo and behold, I ended up being the president of the Coaches Association. So Mike Smith, to me, has been one of the greatest folk that ever coached in the state of Virginia.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 12 state championships, the hand of grabbers, 500 wins. I mean, that podcast he did with Kirk and Bird, Coach, I mean, it's 2 hours, but man, the things that he said on that podcast, Coach, I was going to mention them to you, is he talked about his staff. He said, find some guys that love the game, love the kids, and love the school. And that's what he had, with his assistant coaches.
And that's where it got to be. That's where it got to be. I look at the guys, Alvis Mann and all of them.
Yeah.
Coach Mitchell, all of them, they was on Mike's staff forever. The guys who coached me at Huguenot, most of them was on my staff from the day I took over until I left in 2007. They were, it's got to be like that. And you go from there. I mean, look at Mike. Mike Smith has done a great job down there. I mean, a lot of people don't like the fact that he won this and he won that, but that comes from hard work.
Oh, yeah. Great coach. I mean, the legend stated that Suey Easton said when Mike Smith became the head coach at Hampton High at 29 or 30 years old, they said, well, how do you think, Coach Smith is going to do? And they said, well, they just hired, he's already the best coach in Virginia. That was in the paper.
Yeah.
So, and then Coach Smith said that Phil Elmasian, Coach Elmasian, he's been like 30 different colleges. And Mike Smith said the greatest compliment that he ever got was that Phil Elmasian said the best practices he ever saw, whether it be pro football to high school football or on that Hampton practice field. So, I mean, that says something about a coach, that how great their practices are. You know, I think maybe that's one of the issues with AAU football or travel football, is that kids don't learn how to practice.
Right.
Like, what's your philosophy on practice, Coach?
Well, I did a practice schedule every day, and so on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, we practice the same thing every week in those timeshares. Like some people, they practice offense on Mondays, defense on Tuesdays, like that. The whole game is played on Friday night. It ain't, all right, let's change the rest of this game and play it tomorrow. So I practice the whole game every day. That's what I've always done as a head coach. I practice it. So when Friday night hits, it ain't nothing big, because I done this for 6 days. So why would I not know how to do it? That's just the way I felt about it. And that's why I did my practices like that.
Mm-hmm. You know, just thinking about, you know, Mike Smith and his impact on, you know, football in Virginia. Is he a guy that you modeled your program after? Because, I mean, you were the first with Nike uniforms. Like, where did you get that idea from? You know, how did that all come about, Coach? Because, I mean, you were the first. You were the trailblazer, like Puka said.
A guy named Joe Paterno.
Yeah.
He had a contract with Nike, and he got me set up with Nike.
Yeah, talk a little bit about Coach Paterno, Coach, and what he meant to you.
Well, you know, Coach is one of these kind of people that when he first meets you, it's not a distance, but he don't, you know, everything ain't just, let me tell you this. He gets to know you before he try to throw stuff at you, you know. And I worked at camp. I worked Penn State football camp from 1989 to 2007. You know how long that is?
It's a long time.
Yeah, I did his camp, and he at first he treated me like a visiting coach, and by the time before he passed, he treated me like a son. He really did. And that's how I feel about it, you know. And I didn't go to his funeral because it was just too much, you know. I spoke with the family and everything, but I wasn't gonna make that trip. So, but Coach Paterno, he did a lot for me, a lot for my family, and for the kids. We sent, counting Mike Robinson, we sent 5 kids to Penn State.
You talk about how Mike Robb, you know, one of the best players ever to come out of Richmond, won the Super Bowl with the Seahawks. He's on NFL Network. He's on commercials. Talk a little bit about how all that went down. And I know Gary Chilcote was your great friend.
Oh yeah, well, I think they was all set on Mike going to Tech. I really think that's what the deal was. And when I talked to Bill Kinney, who was doing the recruiting of Mike, and talked with Coach Paterno, I told him, I said, the kid can play anywhere. You know, the thing that he has to concern himself with is going to a school that ain't gonna let him quarterback. If he's not gonna quarterback, he ain't coming. But they decided that they wanted him to come as a quarterback. But and once he got there, in the meantime, they had him doing something else till it was time for him to be the quarterback. So he did a lot of other things. And you know, back during that time, some people thought on that level you can't be a black quarterback. You know, but that's for the empty-mindedness.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike, I think he's done. Look what he tried to do to come back in to Richmond, and what he's done in the Verona area for the kids.
Yeah, he gave back.
Yes, and that's what it's all about. That's exactly what it's all about. And if you or any other coach or anybody could have ever sat down and spoke with Joe Paterno. I remember when Joe Paterno got out of the car in front of Huguenot, and I walked out to meet him. The first thing he said was, "Richard, I had no idea Huguenot was in the suburbs."
He's from New York City, and
He said,
it would be the suburbs to him, huh?
he said, "I thought Huguenot was in the inner city." I
Yeah.
said, "Nope."
There's levels of this, ain't it, Coach?
Yes.
Is he from Brooklyn, or I mean, I don't even know. I know he's from New York City, I
I think
believe.
he's from, I think it is Brooklyn, if I'm not
Wow,
mistaken.
man,
Yeah.
what a legend!
Yeah.
You know, you were asked about coaches players that you coached. Who was the greatest? But I know you coached against Allen Iverson and Ronald Curry.
Yeah.
Can you talk about them and some of the other greatest players that you coached against? I mean, first to start with Allen Iverson, Coach, and that team that he had.
Well, when we played them in '92 at City Stadium in 6 degrees, and Allen Iverson. We went up the week before to scout them in the regional finals, and I was going in the stand. Me and it was like 3 or 4 coaches, and this older white black guy said, "Excuse me, sir." He said, "Excuse me, who you come here to look at?" I said, "Come to look at Bethel." And he said, "You come to look at Bubba Chuck?" I said, "Sir, I have no idea who Bubba Chuck is."
Yeah,
He said, "You will before you leave here."
Will. I remember, Coach. I remember watching him. My dad took us to Arthur Ashe to watch him play basketball with Tony Rutland. I don't know if they played John Marshall or who, but man, wasn't he something? I mean,
Because they played him on defense. They played him 20 yards off the ball.
I know they did that to Ronald Curry. They did it to Ronald Curry and Allen Iverson. So Kaz probably just copied what Mike was doing.
What Mike was doing. They played him 20 yards off the ball. We had them 16-0 going into the fourth quarter. And they ended up tying it up, and then we lost in overtime. And it was all because of him. He intercepted a pass, and he ran a punt back. So
Willie Mays asking the question, said, Coach McFee, why you never fixed Marshawn Red drop back? He dropped back, backpedal, laugh out loud, but he was a monster at Huguenot. I guess is he talking? I guess Willie, you talking about like when they drop back the quarterback, he backpedals out, or instead of the sideways? Is that what he's talking about, Coach?
That's what I'm assuming. That's what he's saying.
I mean, because some quarterbacks nowadays in pro football are doing that because they can see both sides of the field. I know Steve Young, when he was at BYU, they were teaching that. So did y'all teach that, the backpedal out?
No, well, it depends on the play. See, we taught it all. We taught the sprint out, and we taught the backpedal. Now we were on the center, so we had straight drop back. You got a backpedal, or because I want you to see the whole field. I don't want you to see just this part of the field.
Yeah.
Because then there's no throwback. But if you backpedal, you see the whole field. Some may break over here, and nothing is happening over here where you're supposed to go to. Give it back to him. Give it to him. That's just, to me, that's a play on what you want as a coach.
Yeah.
But Marshawn Red was a heck of a quarterback for us. He really was.
Yeah. Willie said, gotcha, makes sense. You see like now Brady, he's taken, I think he takes his left foot back,
mm-hmm.
and then in his stance, and then he steps with the right. And I mean, they've cut the footwork down so much for the quarterback. He's only taking a 2-step drop from the gun, So, and pretty much he's keeping his shoulders open. He's not, turning, to one side.
And see, my whole thing, if a kid drops back on one side, to me, you taking half of the game away from him. Because he had no clue about what's going on. Because if I'm here like this, I see that. And for me to come back here, how much time that takes. But if you're dropping straight back, you see it all from the beginning. And like in our wing T, we did a lot of rolling, left and right. Now, what our thing was this. you can shoot out there at him rolling if you want to, but we're coming right back underneath of it with a reverse. And that's left up to which play you want to beat you. That's how we did it.
Yeah, I remember all those offenses you had, Coach. So Allen Iverson, you talked about him.
Yeah.
And then what about Ronald Curry, Coach, the Hampton Crappers? Did you ever coach against him?
No, you know what? We never did anything against Ron. I watched him. I've gone to their practices and watched him and everything. Ronald Curry was.
It's Coach Britty. I believe this is Coach Britty, or is this his son? Coach Mack is the man. He always let me go to the camp with his guys. So I guess is that the son, Coach Britty, or is that the coach?
I'm thinking it's the son. I'm thinking.
Yeah, he's a great coach at Monacan, and his son played running back at VMI. He had a great career in Monacan. Has been good, for a long time.
Yeah,
I remember that one kid in 1991 was at Corn Brown. Who was it that went to? They had an NFL football player. They won the district. I can't remember what his name was. You remember him, Coach?
From where, Monica?
Yeah.
Because I know we had a kid that played for me that went to Brown on scholarship. He was like 4.9 academically.
Wow. So any other players that you coached against that stand out in your career?
It's the middle linebacker that played at EC Glass, and I can't think of his name because he got in a little trouble. Bo, I want to say Bo, but I don't think that's right. I can't think of his name, but he was a heck of a fool. I know when we played them for the state championship in '88, when you turned the film on, it was him.
It was an explosion.
Yes.
Linebackers, people think they can coach linebackers. I mean, what's your philosophy on that, Coach? Because those linebackers, they're boom. They fill holes, they fit it.
See, my whole thing is, let's see what he does best and go from there. Now, then after we see what he can do, now let's look at what he can't do or that he's not doing. And then we can make adjustments with that. So
Willie May wants to know about Jason Snelling. You talked a little bit about him, the great running back from Byrd and UVA, and
he was
Falcons.
Great. Yes.
Yeah, people always want to ask, who is the best Byrd tailback? I mean,
well, he got to be one of them.
He's got to be, Coach. He had the longest career in the NFL.
Yes.
BB Shivers, Coach.
BB Shavers, yeah.
Shavers. Who did he play for, Coach? Is he Springer or Verona?
I'm trying to remember who BB played for.
Yeah, Puka knows. That's the linebacker.
EC Glass, that's him. You got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Way to go, Puka. I might need to get you on here next, Puka.
Yeah, he played. This kid here, I'm telling you, he got in a little trouble. But other than that, Coach, he was a hell of a football player.
Who would you compare him to? Who would you compare him to that people would know? What's your point of reference?
Eric Sturdivant that played for me.
Yeah, he's pretty good. He went to Penn State. Yeah, he could go. He could go. Willie May says Ahmad Brooks. Well, I saw him. I don't know if you ever coached against him, Coach, but that was a Mack truck.
Where was he?
Ahmad Brooks from C.D. Hilton. He played for Coach Brown.
No.
He went to UVA. He's almost like Curtis Grant, but a tailback.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6'4". Kid played in the NFL. He was a big kid. Coaches that you coached against. Who are some that stand out, Coach, as being the best, and why?
Lou Anderson.
And why is that, Coach?
Because he gave me a chance, and a lot of stuff he taught me I used when I became a head coach. I'm trying to think now. Frank Butts that George with. Frank Butts did a great job over there, but they never pushed it the way it should be to me for him, because he was a great one. He ended up being an administrator before he retired. But in the late great Andy Lawrence, the football coach and basketball referee. He ran the wishbone at Armstrong, and he did a great job with the wishbone. And the only thing, Armstrong and Walker both could have very easily gone to state championships, but they gave up that right to play the Armstrong-Walker game. So one year they had the state championship football game at Petersburg at Virginia State. They had 2,000 people there. We were playing at the same time at City Stadium at 41,000. So
41,000 people?
Oh yeah. That was with Armstrong Walker games, yes.
Man.
Yes. Always.
Coach, why I don't know why Chesterfield or Richmond 1, can't have a stadium like that, where
because they spent all their money on the Redskins. And
you might as well just make that into a stadium then. Get
well.
On that, Coach.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you got a good idea right there, Coach.
See?
Take that land right there and put a stadium up for the kids, man.
Yep.
Something they can be proud of, Puka Scott wanted to know how good was Macho Harris, Macho, that night on Forest Hill.
Well, Coach, I coached Macho in the All-Star game. So, and I really didn't get to know him till then, being there for that 2 weeks. And Macho was a player. Yeah, he was a player.
He was a good young man. Do you know the story about him and Frank Beamer and the fire that occurred when he was there on the visit? Yeah, there was a fire. I don't know the whole story. Puka probably knows it. And if Puka, if you want to come on, I'll send you a link. If you got Coach's number, hit him up or you text me if you want to come on. That'd be cool. My number is 804-839-5244. 804-839-5244. If you want to come on, text me 804-839-5244. You can come on, Puka. You might as well be on, man. You got all the good questions. Yeah, man. I mean, I'm so happy. Thank you, 804 for showing the love to Coach Mack. I mean, this is very like impromptu, last minute. Here's William, Tiller, Coach Tiller. He was the head coach at Amelia, and he was the offensive coordinator at Clover Hill. Legend of the game. Glad to have coached against you, Mac. He was one of the young up and coming coaches. He has an insurance business now. Puka, nothing like the Armstrong Walker game. It's where I feel in line with football.
Yeah, that's right.
So talk a little bit about that game, Coach, because I've seen pictures and stuff, but what all did that amount to?
Well, it amounted to, for that Saturday after Thanksgiving, you had to have a brand new suit. The women had the 6-inch heels. It was everybody lived for the Armstrong Walker game. The whole city was just shut down for the Armstrong Walker game. It was unbelievable that a high school could do that. 2 high schools. And here's the funny part about it. I went to Armstrong for 2 years, and then I coached at Maggie Walker. Now, if you went to Armstrong, you would say the Armstrong Walker football game. If you went to Maggie Walker, you would say the Walker Armstrong football game.
Man.
Each school felt like they deserved the top billing. And since Maggie Walker won 9 years in a row, they got the top billing. So when I was in high school, Maggie Walker, Armstrong never beat Walker.
So when did that kind of stop? Was that when they when they had the merger of the schools?
Yeah,
they combined them
when they went to the Marshall Walker thing, the Marshall Walker, Armstrong Kennedy.
When for the people that are watching that aren't familiar with that, talk a little bit about that. When the Richmond City consolidated the schools, they didn't consolidate the schools, but they consolidated the teams. How did that all work, Coach?
Well, the kids that went to say the Walker, it was a kid from the West End. Back in the days before they integrated the schools, the kids that lived in South Side and North Side, if I'm not mistaken, they could go to either one of the 2 schools. Then when they merged the schools together and became Marshall Walker, Armstrong Kennedy, or whatever. Anyway, when they merged the schools together, if you lived in the north side, you had to go to Marshall Walker. If you lived in the south side, you had to go to Jefferson Huguenot Whiff. If you lived in Church Hill, you went to Armstrong Kennedy or whatever the name was. But anyway, that's what they did, and some of the kids had to renew their alliance because their parents went to one of those schools. So now it's not, I was born and raised to go to Walker. No, not anymore. Now you're born and raised to go to wherever you live. You know. So, but Armstrong Walker game was a great game for everybody. It really was. I'm sorry they did away with it, but they wanted the city schools to be able to play for state championships in football, and that's why they had to do that.
Mm-hmm. So now you've been texting me. You seem to be pretty happy about Coach Scott leaving Life Christian and coming over to Huguenot and restoring the pride. The gold helmets, man. I mean, I don't know whose idea it was to go away from the gold helmets, but people are always telling me, Troy, change the bird helmet, change the bird helmet. I'm like, that's the same helmet they had since 1983. Like, I ain't changing the helmet. So like, it's just something about those gold helmets, man. I mean.
Well, I had a coach say to me yesterday, they got a new coach. I certainly hope somebody convince him that he need to go back to your gold helmets, coach. I said, well, we'll see.
Yeah, the thrill on Forest Hill.
That's right.
And another one. Is that what they say when you get a first down?
That's what they said. And
yeah, Coach,
one.
I sent Puka the link. So Puka might be coming on here with us, Coach.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do this again, Coach. We're having some fun, man. We've almost been on here for 2 hours.
I know.
And people still watching us. Yeah, we're Coach. We're definitely better than that Coach from Last Chance U. Jason Brown. He got fired, didn't he?
Yeah.
So, Coach, do you still watch football, college football, pro football?
I do and I don't. Now, let me give you an example. On Sundays, I look at the red zone.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to sit and just watch a game. I'd rather look at the red zone where I can see everything.
And no commercials.
No commercials. See?
Yes, somebody said they didn't like it because they can't watch the whole game. But come on, man. Like, nobody wants to watch punts.
But that's why you have a channel selector.
Exactly. They're way smarter than me. Flipping back and forth. Remember that, Coach? We used to
flip
back and forth between games.
You would have to. That's the only way you could do that. But I like the red zone because it's showing you the important stuff. I
agree. And then if they miss anything, if someone does block a punt or an extra point, they'll show you.
Yes.
I mean, it's nonstop football. If I wasn't coaching high school, man, I would be sitting right there.
Yeah.
Watching Red Zone nonstop.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know whose idea that was, but I love it.
I don't know whose idea it was either, Coach. But, man, it is for the guys. Okay, Puka's coming on, Coach.
Uh-oh.
Okay, Coach.
He is.
Hey, what's up, coaches? How y'all doing, man?
All right, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Hey, y'all. Speaking on that macho situation.
But Puka, women, before you say anything, I had no idea your name was Robert Scott. I've never known your name. I've never known your name.
Yeah, Coach. Hey, listen. My mom gave me the name as a baby, and it stuck with me, man. That's what everybody know me as.
Hey,
yeah, my government name is Robert Lee Scott III.
Robert Lee. Not
yes,
the
sir.
Robert Lee.
Yeah, man.
Not the Robert Lee. Yeah, man. Hey, Coach, like I said earlier, man, we done had conversations for years, man, and I always watched you, always followed you, try to imitate you. I'm a Lou guy. I played for Lou at Virginia State.
Yeah.
Was on, started sitting on his first CIAA championship team.
Yeah.
My parents, my whole family, Walker people. My grandma worked at Armstrong for 31 years, and so I came up in that time when Armstrong Walker game was the game in Richmond, and everybody wanted to be the play for Armstrong or Walker.
Yeah.
So that's what my love for football happened when I was, a kid. But I just wanted, like I said earlier, man, I just want to thank you for everything you've done for football in the area, man. And we like to give people their flowers while they're here, man. But without your influence and your guidance, man, football in the 804 would not be where it is.
Well, thank you.
So I just want to let you know that means a lot to me and all the coaches around here, man. If they don't say it, they doing things they don't even know you did. You started.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, this is a great thing that you got going too, Troy. I just want to
It is. I didn't know Troy had this.
Yeah, to thank you. I sent the link.
Been doing it like a week now, man.
Yeah.
I
sent the link to our coaches to make sure they watch Coach McFee today, so everybody can learn a little something. But it's been great watching.
Coach Brady said, "Well said, Puka."
Yeah, man, it's been great watching, man, and hopefully, give a shout out to Charles Scott and those guys that's coming to Huguenot to try to turn that program around. I think it's a good group of guys that's coming to do it, and I think they up for the challenge. And like I put in the group earlier, I tell Lauren all the time, because Lawrence, like he said, he's not a Richmond guy, he's a South Florida guy, and I tell him about the history of football in this area all the time, and I tell him,
whatever.
He might have froze up, Coach. I don't know. He might need to be on his Wi-Fi if he's not on if he's using cellular data. Let me see.
There you go.
Yeah, we
can't hear you.
I'm gonna tell him to come back in, Coach.
All right.
Hey, Puka, you got us?
Nope. He can't hear us either.
Yeah. I'm gonna see if he I'm gonna see if he can come back in. I'm gonna ask him to come back in.
No problem.
He went mute. He froze up, didn't he?
Yeah.
I must text him. You froze up, then you went mute. So I texted him. It's crazy. You didn't even know what his real name was, but you know his family, Coach, that he was talking about?
Mm-hmm. But I didn't know that was his name, Robert Scott. When I first saw the name pop up on the screen and you was talking, I said, who the hell is Robert Scott?
Man, that's branding right there, man. Everybody knows you as Puka,
Yeah.
I mean, he is, for everybody that's watching.
That's all I know him as Puka.
I mean, Puka, he coached Glenn Lee for years. And can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm back.
Okay, right on. Yeah, you froze up and then you went mute.
Yeah, I don't know what happened.
I thought that the TV people said, let's get him off because he ain't the real Robert Scott.
Imitation.
For anybody watching that doesn't know, Coach Puka, Robert Scott, he's ran the Glenn Lee organization for years, and he's had numerous, guys go Division I and play pro football, and he coached at Verona with my friend Zach Hayden and coached. I mean, just Gary Chilcote, y'all. I mean, the amount of people he helped, and him building that program over there at Verona, and then with you going over there to Highland Springs, Puka, and you were a part of really changing that program forever. I mean, they were always good, but now, I mean, it's on a national level. Can you talk a little bit about that, Puka?
Well, first of all, shout out to Coach Chilcote, man. Coach Chilcote, I will always owe him respect. Gave me my first shot. To a lot of other people, I was just a rec coach. You know what I'm saying? And we all know a lot of times a lot of rec coaches don't get their due. I had a very successful run at Verona. When Verona's program turned around, those were the kids, my child downstairs. Those were the kids that I had brought up through Verona Rec. So that first regional championship team, I think Coach had
1991 or 1995?
95 team.
Yeah.
So
I was a senior in LC Bird.
Yeah, that was Bullheller. We beat Bird. Those are my first group of kids that I had coached. Damian Roots, William Pye, all of those guys. So you know, it was a while people trying to get me up there, and then, you know, Coach Chilcoe gave me a shot, man. And I owe it all to him to you know, for where I am today. You know, without him giving me that shot, I never would have had the opportunity. Now the you know, running the program of Verona, like Coach was talking about earlier, the feeder program from the Verona Rec to Verona High School was the whole basis to our success.
Yeah.
Those kids were coming in champions, winning minds.
It's gone again.
Yeah, he must not be on his Wi-Fi. He needs to make sure he's on Wi-Fi. Because if he's on his cellular,
He told somebody to go charge up his phone.
yeah, he needs to. Yeah, it's Coach. The reason is his data or whatever. You know, he needs to be on Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Coach, we've been going for almost 2 hours, Coach.
It says 1 hour and 55 minutes and 54 seconds.
I mean, Coach, you always wanted to be a radio guy. I mean, did you ever think that, I mean, a guy like myself who knows absolutely nothing about communications, I mean, we could sit here and have basically our own TV show at our own house. You know, it's crazy.
It is.
How, you know, the world's changed and how there's more opportunities for kids.
It's out there.
Yeah. Are you on the Wi-Fi, Puka?
Yeah, I'm on it now. I want on it.
Okay, right on. Yeah, if you're on data, it won't work.
Yeah. So where I left off, just the feeder programs being in place was the key to our success. And now with the Highland Springs issue, you know, we have Glenn Lee in place with a lot of coaches from other rec organizations.
Yeah, he's freezing up. Coach Mack, you freezing up?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, you're fine.
I was listening to Puka.
He's messing up on mine.
Well, I'm not. I don't hear him now.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's underrated the importance of a feeder program. I mean, Puka's shown that. I mean, heck, I never knew that Puka had anything to do with that 1995 regional championship team. But I mean, Kevin Lewis was a freshman starting linebacker and fullback on that team, and Damian Roots. I mean, they had Farkas was the quarterback, I believe. So, you know, I would say 75% of my coaches on my staff coach rec ball, at least maybe 80%.
See, we lost to Verona in the regionals. Which one was the coach, though?
Bullheller.
Yeah, Bullheller. I'm trying to think what year that was. It might have been. I remember we lost to him at City Stadium.
In City Stadium?
We played him at City Stadium.
Well, Bullheller probably, I think he was the coach up until, was Craig Lombrano, the year that Craig Lombrano passed away in 2000, was that Coach Chilcote's first year? I mean, I'm pretty sure Puka would know. Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with my Wi-Fi, man, but I paid my bill, I swear.
It's all good, man. You might need to sit right next to it. The closer you are to Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I'm right back.
Coach was asking about when Huguenot got beat by Verona. Was Coach Bullheller the coach? And what was Coach Chilcote's first year? Was that 2000?
Coach Bullheller's Bullheller was the coach, and Coach Chilcote was his first year was the next year.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Because we lost y'all we lost at Verona at the stadium.
Yep, at the stadium. My cousin Carl Smith was playing for you.
Yeah, Carl was playing safety for me.
Yes, sir. Yeah. But to start off where I left off, I was just saying with the program at Highland Springs, our success, man, got a lot to do with the hard work that Lauren puts in.
Yeah.
The dude is he's phenomenal.
Well, Coach,
phenomenal young man that does it for the right reasons, man. That's a big part of our success. And he's a coach that lets his coaches coach.
Yeah, and anybody that wins put in a lot of work.
Yes, sir.
Now, that don't mean that if they're not winning, they're not putting in a lot of work. But I can tell you as a winner, you got to put in the work.
Yeah.
If you don't put in the work, it'll show on Friday night.
Yeah, he works his butt off, man. I don't think the dude sleep during the season. I'm telling you.
Well, you know what I find funny? I go to games now, and if I'm sitting in the stand, most of the time I'll sit in the press box. But if I'm sitting in the stand, or I go to my granddaughter,
Coach, you're always on the sidelines, Coach. Every time
on the sideline,
yeah,
you're right. And I go to my granddaughter. My granddaughter plays for Monica in basketball, and I listen to what the people in the stands are saying. You know, and if I felt like some of those people felt, I wouldn't go to the game.
Yeah.
You know, you not trying to disgrace somebody, but who died and put you in charge?
Exactly.
A
lot of responsibility come with their head coaching thing, man.
That's
and
good.
people
That's
don't
what you
really
said about seat one.
Yeah.
Seat 2 and seat one, Coach.
Yeah,
they're in seat way back.
Yeah, people don't realize the work that has to be put in, man. It's a lot of work, and for pennies.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, I was feeling good about myself. It was 6-0 with 4 seconds left against Highland Springs. Then we fumbled the ball, Coach. I scored, made it 14-0, and then it was 21-0. Then we decided, hey, we're going to throw the ball. That wasn't a good idea. It was 28-0. Then it was 35-0. Yeah, Coach.
Well, one of my former principals at Huguenot, he moved to Georgia and became an administrator in Georgia. And he called me down to come down and interview for the football job. So I took my son and I took coaching at Fairfax High School now.
John
took John with me, right? So we go down there and I interview. See, they have spring football down there.
Yeah.
High school level. So I'm sitting in there doing the interview. They hired me on the spot. Right?
What high school?
I can't even remember the high school. But Mr. Brown, who was my principal at Huguenot, was the principal at that school. And he said, Coach, we wanted to do better, but we could start you off at 103,000. And I'm saying, and I'm up here in Richmond Public School, $1.19 an hour.
and you spending that to buy the kids food.
Yes. But I had to turn it down because the principal or somebody or whoever it was in charge of all of them down there, she wanted me in the classroom. He wanted me to be the dean of men. And he said, if we make Coach McFee the dean of men, he will come in contact with more students than he would as a classroom teacher.
That's right.
But she didn't want to hear that. So on the way back to Richmond, I said, I'm not doing it, Coach. So he said, I understand. I'm not going through that. But
yeah, man.
Just think how much money, and Georgia and all those Alabama and all those Hoover, Alabama, them people don't teach no classes.
No.
But at Hoover, Alabama, Coach, they have a gym, football only gym. And what does that tell you? Huh?
They care about football.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, man. I just want to thank y'all for the opportunity to come on, man. I'm gonna jump back off, man. I appreciate both of you guys for everything y'all have done for football, Coach. And
appreciate you, man.
Y'all be easy, man.
Now I know who Robert Scott is next time I see the graffiti on the wall.
And I know who Butch is.
Yeah.
Not bad.
A lot of people don't know.
See you.
All right, now.
Thank you, man.
Hey, Coach, we've had a good time, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. That was very good.
Yeah, we still got 20 people watching after
You do?
2 hours. And this will always be out there, Coach, forever, man. We'll do it again. Anything else you'd like to say before we sign off, Coach?
Well, I want to thank you for having me on. You know, my granddaughter came in and set this all up so I could talk to you. And I just want to thank you. It's not every day that this happens, you know. Because when you first called me this morning and said about the podcast, and I went, what the hell is he talking about? But I said, yeah, I'll do it. You know, nothing venture, nothing gain. So that's the way I look at it. But you're doing a great job with it, football-wise, and with this. So so how long you said you've been doing this?
People kept asking me about the clinic. Was I going to do the clinic? And I'm not going to do the clinic this year because I had to rent a hotel. Last year, I rented the hotel on Midlothian, and it was so huge, Coach. It almost wasn't big enough. So, like, the only other hotel is the one further down Midlothian near Johnson Willis.
Yeah,
that place is crazy. I mean, it's like 4,000 just for one, like, for the bottom. Yeah. So, like, Coach, either was it going to be too big or not big enough. So people kept asking me about the clinic, and I was like, well, I'm just going to do it on YouTube. I'm just going to make it into a podcast. So I've had coaches. I mean, I got coaches from every college around coming to talk, and high school coaches. I even got Uncle Luke, man, from 2 Live Crew. He's going to come on and talk about they only get paid $2,000 in Miami at Thomas Edison High School to be the head coach. Yeah. It's crazy, man. Then, I mean, Ed Reed, Coach, you know, I don't know if you saw yesterday what he was posting, but he was so upset with the administration at Bethune because he hadn't got a contract and he was out there picking up trash with the football team. Did you hear anything about that? Yeah, he was really upset. He said Dion was right. So, I mean, and I was thinking, man, it's Martin Luther King Day, and calling you and the voicemail of having, you know, Dr. King on there. And I was like, man, it would be great just to get coach on the podcast, you know, to talk.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. It's been 2 hours and 6 minutes.
Yeah. I guess this, you know, like you said, this wouldn't have happened 30 years ago.
No, it wouldn't.
So, you know, we're going in the right direction, you know, in our country. And, you know, I know that, you know, you're a great American, Coach. You're just not a great man, a great coach. You're a great American, and you're the GOAT, man. You know, coaches, and we all look up to you, and you know that's obvious from the comments.
Yeah, thank you.
So we'll do it again, Coach. We'll do it again. You know, if you watch you gonna watch pro football tonight? You gonna watch Tom Brady?
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that tonight.
Yeah, Coach. We might have to come back on and talk about the game. You know, tomorrow or something. We might have, you know, the Coach Mac and Coach Taylor podcast. Yeah. I appreciate you though, Coach.
Thank you.
I'm gonna press in, but just okay. And Mark Mines is on, Coach. Mark Mines said great podcast. Mark Mines said great podcast. Mark played a Meadowbrook and Bird, I believe, and then, you know, Rich City Johnson said GOAT. So I'm gonna press in, Coach. You just stay on, okay?
Okay.